I wanted to focus in specifically on what's happening in China and, of course, your exposure to ByteDance.
Yeah.
I know you've told us previously you have a material exposure. What's the exposure today?
We don't talk about specific dollar amounts, but it is material. I mean, it is not as big as firms like Sequoia or General Atlantic or Cotu and things like that. But we have for us, it's a material position. It's an incredible business where we can basically value the business in the U.S. at zero, and no idea what's going to happen there. We still think that something probably will end up coming. It'll probably be wrapped in some much bigger deal, and this company is now getting drawn into all this tariff discussion. And I can't say that I know the premier of China, or I can't say I know the president of the United States, or that I'm good friends with the CEO of ByteDance, and those are the three people that will be involved in a discussion. But it's an incredible business, growing really fast, providing huge numbers of jobs to people in China. It's taken a ton of market share from the e-commerce players in China. It's just an incredible business that we've been able to buy, over the a year, back in 2024 at what we thought were very reasonable prices. Now, again, I can't tell you when it's going to go public. I have no clue.
Are you going to be looking to add to positions in
we have a fairly full-size position right now, so we're not buying anymore right now. But it had nothing to do with trade wars or anything like that. It's just that we've built a big position in it.
Okay, walk me through what you think is going to happen with TikTok then, because under one version of the deal that we have, at least in front of us right now, ByteDance keeps just under 20%. US investors are going to take around 30%, and this new consortium, it's Oracle, Blackstone, Andreessen Horowitz, gets around 50%. Would you back a structure like that?
I don't think anybody knows what the structure is. I don't think anybody has a clue what the structure is going to be, or it's going to be at the end of the day. It's going to be determined by the president of China, the premier of China, the president of the United States.
So what?
But put it this way: if I could buy, depending on the price of what they valued TikTok at, would I be interested in buying additional shares in TikTok USA? Depending on the price, absolutely. It's an incredible business.
So what type of structure would you personally back?
I think they struck. Well, I think you're going. If something happens, you might see a structure like one that you suggested. But reality is, I do not know what the structure is. But you could see some scenario where, if the president of the United States is trying to get more ownership, he's going to cut down. He's going to lower the ownership of the Chinese investors, and somebody's going to need to come in. It seems like very logical that the main cloud computing provider to him in the United States, Oracle, would be involved. But in terms of like other firms or Oracle, your guess is literally as good as mine. Yeah. And nobody knows, to be clear.
Yeah. So we're still trying to see exactly how this is going to look.
But it got pushed out 90 days, so we'll talk about it.
Exactly. And there's still a few more months for this deal to take shape, whatever the deal looks like. I just wanted to pick up on something you said, though. You said you would invest in this new US-based TikTok entity if that's how it comes together. How do you value that?
Without having all the financial, look, we know user numbers, we know high-level financials on it. We're obviously not going to disclose that, talk about that on television. But you would value it relative to like you would value Facebook or Snapchat, based on an earnings multiple, or you'd build a 5-year model and an earnings multiple. The growth rate is astonishing. I do think that there is another issue that people don't talk about in the U.S. that needs to be solved. And I think it's social media regulation. It's highly regulated in China. Like, kids in China are learning about like science on it and math. In the U.S., kids are bullying and doing all these things. I do think that social media companies need to be held responsible for this stuff, and we'll see what's going to happen over time. And I think there's actually an uprising happen, and again, uprising is not the right word, but I think there is like a movement now among schools and parents in the U.S. like fed up with this stuff, and some of these European countries have done a pretty good job. So in Australia and things like that.
The TikTok sale would essentially accelerate that push towards, you say, much needed regulation in the U.S.
I think those are maybe two separate things. But the U.S. business of TikTok, which I think a lot of people don't understand, could go to zero, and it does not change one iota of our investment thesis. We actually, in our base case models, assumed the U.S. business was shut down. We think we can make a great return just with the Chinese and the rest of the world's business. It's a monster company run by a phenomenal management team with huge tailwinds behind it.
Right. What's your exit plan with ByteDance then? Do you have one?
I mean, at some point, probably will go public. Your guess is we don't know when we have no special insights into when it will go. But our assumption is at some point it will eventually go public.
Do you think we would ever see listed TikTok in the United States?
If it's spun out, you could. I don't think you will see a ByteDance IPO in the U.S. I think you'll see a ByteDance IPO in Hong Kong or China, most likely Hong Kong. But yeah, I think if they were to spin out the U.S. business, that will be the eventual goal.
Okay, so we're still trying to make sense of how all of this is going to shake out.
Correct, and it will change 50 times from now and Sunday. And
Indeed.
I'm sure have to do with like tariffs and all that stuff as well.
Indeed, and let's not forget that this is also a negotiation between two nation states as well, beyond just the negotiation over the sale
Exactly, 100%.